Today, I'm going to show you how to make and can your own homemade pumpkin butter. It is so good, and honestly, it's really easy to make, so come along and I'll show you how. So obviously to make pumpkin butter, you're going to need pumpkins. Now you can use a couple of smaller pie pumpkins, or you could even use a giant jack-o'-lantern pumpkin like this. It doesn't matter what kind of pumpkin you use, any type of pumpkin will work. So first, what we are going to do is cut this up because, of course, to make pumpkin butter, you have to have pumpkin puree. Now, you can, if you want to, just buy the cans of pumpkin puree from the store, but it's so easy and cost-effective to make yourself that I highly recommend making it. So anyway, to cut this up, all we're going to do is cut the top off. If it's a smaller pie pumpkin, you're just going to cut it in half and put the cut side down. But because I'm using this giant jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, I might have to cut it into 4 different pieces just to fit it on my baking sheet. Okay, so we got our bad boy cut in half here. So now we're just going to scrape out all of the pumpkin guts and then cut it one more time so that it's in 4 pieces. Now we're just going to put these on baking dishes and we're going to put them face down like that. And we're going to bake these until they are fork tender and the skin is kind of crinkly and peels off really easily. That time is going to depend on the size of pumpkin that you use. The smaller pie pumpkins usually take like 30 to 45 minutes, but these bigger jack-o'-lantern pumpkins usually take at least an hour. Just like that. And if your pumpkin is ever so big that it doesn't fit on your baking dish, it's fine if you got to cut the end off. No big deal. Now we're gonna bake these at 400, and I did have to end up cutting my bigger pumpkins for the top in half again because they were so tall they wouldn't fit in that space in my oven, but that's okay. It's been 40 minutes, let's go ahead and check on it. So you can see where it is definitely cooking, but it is not done because the skin is not wrinkly yet, so we're gonna keep cooking it a little bit more. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Oh yeah. This is definitely done. See how they're mushed down? That skin's gonna peel right off. Let's pull them out. Now I'm just gonna let it cool down for about 15 minutes so that I can easily peel off the skin without burning myself. They are cooled down, and so now I'm just going to pull off the skin. It peels off so easily. Now here's a little tip. You don't want your pumpkin puree to have too much water in it because then it'll be really runny instead of thick. So if you're using a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, they're gonna have more moisture than your pie pumpkins. All you do is squeeze and get some of that liquid out. See that? It's that easy. Just like that. All of the skin is removed, so now we're going to puree it, and then that's it. We've made pumpkin puree. It's all pureed, and look at this beautiful orange pumpkin puree. And so now we're ready to turn this into pumpkin butter. It's so easy. Let's just add some sugar and spices. So I've got my pumpkin puree on the stovetop now on low heat. I'm gonna bring this back to a simmer, and then I'm going to add in my sugar and my spices. Now this recipe is for 2 cups of pumpkin puree, which is the same as like a pint-sized jar or a 15-ounce can from the store. So for every 2 cups of pumpkin puree, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar or white sugar or maple syrup, whatever sweetener you like, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then an 1/8 teaspoon of ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. And just for reference, before I put all that in, this is roughly 12 pints of pumpkin puree, so I'm doing 12 times the recipe. This is gonna get really full. Everything's in, now we're just gonna give it a good mix. Now I'm just gonna bring this to that simmer and simmer it for about 20 minutes so that it gets a little bit caramelized. It's looking good so far. It's been about 15 minutes, and I am simmering it with the lid on because this stuff is so thick that it splashes everywhere and makes a big mess, but I'm stirring it about every 5 minutes. And it's done. Look at how thick this is and how it's that nice dark brown orangish color, and it's so smooth. See that? This is perfect pumpkin butter. All right, let's can it. So as always, I'm gonna put it into my jars, leaving an inch of headspace. I'm gonna wipe those rims. I'm gonna add my lids and my bands, and we'll be ready to pressure can. All the jars are filled and they're ready to go in the pressure canner. Look at how beautiful that is. And just for reference, that one large jack-o'-lantern pumpkin yielded 8 of the pints and 10 of the half pints. Now this does need to be pressure canned because it is a low acid food, and I've got mine double stacked, so my pint jars are at the bottom and my half pints are right here on the top. Make sure you follow your pressure canner's instructions. I've got my lid on, and my pressure canner requires venting, so once the water on the inside comes to a boil and steam starts coming out, I will vent it for 10 minutes. And it's venting, so we're gonna let that vent for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is up, so now I'm gonna put my weight on, and I'm gonna get that pressure up to 10 pounds. I live at an elevation that is low in Kentucky, so I'm gonna pressure can mine at 10 pounds pressure. If you live at a higher elevation, make sure you look at the grid online and adjust accordingly, because the higher elevation you are, the more pressure you will need. Okay, and we're at 10 pounds pressure, so I'm gonna process these for 60 minutes. I'm doing pints and half pints. Both of those are 60 minutes. Okay, timer's up. So now I've got my heat turned off, and I'm just going to let this completely cool down by itself. I'm not gonna touch it or anything. Once that pressure comes all the way down to 0, I'll take the lid off and we can get our jars out. Pressure's down to 0, so I'm gonna take that lid off and get them out.
And that's it. We just made and canned our own delicious homemade pumpkin butter from fresh pumpkins. It's that easy.
And my entire house right now smells so amazing. It smells like I've been baking pumpkin pies all day.
Also, I do want to make a quick disclaimer here that this recipe is not USDA recommended. They do not recommend that pureed pumpkin is safe for canning at home, but honestly, it's a way that my family and thousands of others have done it for generations without problems. If you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine. Whenever you make this pumpkin butter, just put it in baggies and freeze it and pull it out whenever you want to use it. But here's the quick thought process behind why we do this. Botulism only requires a temperature of 250 degrees for a couple of minutes to kill it. This pumpkin is baked in the oven at 400 degrees for over an hour, then it's boiled for 20 minutes, and then it's cooked in a pressure canner at a really high temperature with a lot of pressure for over an hour. So there's no way that botulism can survive through that. So all in all, just can within your comfort zone in your own kitchen. But I promise this stuff is worth making. It's delicious. And here's a little price breakdown so you can see how inexpensive it is to make your own at home. One jelly-sized jar from the store is $3.74. I bought one $5 pumpkin, which yielded 26 jelly-sized jars of pumpkin butter. If I were to try to buy that much from the store, it would cost $97.24. Plus, look at the list of ingredients in the one from the store. The first thing listed is sugar, which means there's more sugar in this thing than there is pumpkin. All right, that's officially it. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Happy homesteading!